Today, I'm 2 hours outside of Frankfurt. I'm headed to Merkers Mine to see where the Nazis put the gold that they had plundered from Europe at the end of World War II.
What if billions in gold simply vanished at the end of World War II? What if that treasure rumored to be hidden in secret vaults, sunken submarines, and buried trains is still out there today, waiting to be found? The hunt for Nazi gold has spanned decades and continents. This is the story of history's most mysterious treasure hunt, Hitler's hidden treasure. Where it came from, where it went, and why it may still be out there. It started with a crime, not one, but thousands. As Nazi Germany expanded across Europe, it did more than conquer territory. It plundered. Banks were looted, museums emptied, and Jewish families stripped of their possessions. The Nazi regime didn't just want to dominate Europe. They wanted to bankroll it, using stolen wealth to fund their war machine. But the looting didn't begin in the heat of battle. It began before the war even started. In March 1938, Germany annexed Austria, and Nazi commandos made a direct trip to the Austrian central bank. In just days, they seized 90 tons of gold, and this was only the beginning. When Czechoslovakia fell, the gold reserves of Prague followed. In all, between 1937 and 1939, Germany's official gold reserves swelled by over $70 million, more than $1 billion in today's currency. Once the war began, the scale of theft exploded. Belgium lost over $220 million in gold, the Netherlands nearly as much. Some gold came from central banks, but more came from private citizens, especially Jews, who were arrested, deported, and murdered. Their jewelry, gold teeth, wedding bands, even fillings were melted down into bricks and sent to Berlin. At the heart of it all was the Reichsbank, the Nazi central bank. Its president, Walter Funk, worked closely with the SS to funnel looted gold into official accounts. Some of it went straight into Swiss banks, transformed into francs and used to buy raw materials like tungsten from Portugal or war supplies from Spain and Turkey. The gold laundering scheme was simple and devastating. Germany stole gold, sent it to Switzerland, got francs in return, and used that money to keep the war going. But by 1945, the Third Reich was crumbling. The Allies were closing in, and the Nazis, desperate and paranoid, began hiding what was left of their stolen wealth. That's when the real mystery begins. One of the biggest treasure finds of the war came not from a dramatic battlefield raid, but from a tip delivered by two displaced French women walking near a salt mine in Merkers, Germany. When questioned by US military police, they casually mentioned that the mine contained a stash of Nazi treasure. It sounded like a rumor. But when Colonel Bernard Bernstein and a squad of engineers entered the mine, they were stunned. Inside a massive underground chamber were thousands of bags, crates, and boxes filled with currency, coins, jewelry, and 8,307 gold bars. They even found bags of gold rings taken from concentration camp victims. Paintings lined the walls. Sculptures sat wrapped in blankets. There were even boxes marked SS property. The total value of the Merkers treasure was staggering, over $500 million in 1945 dollars. That's billions today. It took 30 trucks and multiple trips to transport it all to Frankfurt, but rumors still swirl about whether all the treasure made it out. Some trucks never arrived. Some soldiers may have helped themselves to a piece of history. And Merkers was just one of many caches. In Hungary, as Soviet forces advanced, officials loaded 24 train cars with stolen treasure, much of it from Jewish families, and sent it west. The goal was to get the valuables to safety, possibly in Switzerland, but only part of the treasure made it. Some was buried in Austria. Some was seized by the US Army in Salzburg. What happened next remains controversial. The US decided it was impossible to identify the rightful owners of the goods. Instead, many of the rugs, paintings, and jewels were sent to auction. Officers even helped themselves, furnishing their villas with candlesticks, carpets, and silverware from the gold train. Years later, some of those same items turned up in American antique shops. But while much of the Reich's stolen wealth ended up in Allied hands or disappeared, some may have taken a darker path. In Switzerland, gold flowed into banks at an astonishing rate. According to a Swiss commission in the 1990s, Switzerland received $440 million in gold from Nazi sources, $316 million of which was likely looted. Swiss bankers turned a blind eye. They accepted melted-down bars with no markings. They demanded no explanations. After the war, Jewish survivors returning to reclaim their deposits were stonewalled. They had no death certificates, no proof. Many never got their money back. Switzerland wasn't alone. Portugal, Spain, and Sweden also received Nazi gold in exchange for critical wartime supplies. In Portugal, dictator Salazar eventually demanded gold instead of currency. After discovering the Reich had paid with counterfeit money, nearly 78 tons of Nazi gold passed through Portuguese banks during the war. Only a fraction was ever returned. And then there's the Vatican. In 1946, a secret U.S. intelligence report known as the Bigelow Report claimed that the Vatican Bank had received over 350 million Swiss francs in looted Nazi gold. According to the report, some of that gold was held in numbered Swiss accounts, some hidden in the Vatican itself. The Vatican has denied the charges, and no direct proof has ever emerged. But the rumors persist. Still, the most tantalizing part of the Nazi gold story isn't what we found, it's what we haven't. One of the most famous legends is that of the Polish gold train, a Nazi freight train allegedly loaded with 300 tons of gold, priceless art, and stolen valuables, hidden in a tunnel near Walsbrzych in southern Poland. Rumors suggest that German engineers buried the train in early 1945 as Soviet troops approached. In 2015, two treasure hunters claimed they'd found it using ground-penetrating radar. The Polish government launched an excavation. Tourists poured in. The media went wild. But there was no train. Still, the story wasn't entirely a hoax. Lower Silesia, the region around Walsbrzych, was home to a vast network of tunnels and bunkers known as Project Rias. Some were unfinished. Others remain unexplored. Locals still tell stories of convoys moving gold into the mountains, of tunnels being sealed, of strange military activity in the final weeks of the war. One Polish partisan claimed he saw trucks drive into a tunnel and never come out. That entrance was later blown up and buried. In the same region, a 2019 diary, allegedly written by an SS officer, surfaced, detailing 11 different sites where treasure had been buried, including an old well under a brothel near a 16th century palace. The diary mentioned gold, jewels, and religious artifacts looted from Jewish communities and stored for safekeeping. Experts are divided over its authenticity, but once again, the legend refuses to die. Further west, in Austria's Lake Toplitz, another mystery lurks beneath the surface. The lake is deep, cold, and deadly, its bottom choked with logs and silt. In the final months of the war, local villagers reported seeing Nazi trucks haul boxes to the lake under armed guard. Some boxes were loaded onto boats and sunk. Others, locals say, were simply tossed in. What was inside? No one knows for sure. In later dives, teams found forged British pounds from Operation Bernhard, a Nazi plot to crash the British economy by flooding it with fake currency. But no gold. No jewels, and no definitive proof of what else might lie in the lake's dark depths. And then there's Argentina. After the war, hundreds, possibly thousands of Nazis escaped to South America, many to Argentina. Some were high-ranking officials. Some arrived with little more than a suitcase. Others came well prepared. Intelligence reports suggest that millions in gold were funneled through diplomatic pouches and false identities. At least 400 shipments of Nazi wealth left Europe between 1938 and 1951, some allegedly carried by submarine. One U-boat, U-977 arrived in Argentina 4 months after Germany surrendered. Its captain claimed he simply didn't want to surrender to Allies. Others believed the delay had a darker purpose, smuggling gold, and perhaps even senior Nazis across the Atlantic. In 2017, Argentine police raided a home outside Buenos Aires and found a secret room filled with Nazi memorabilia. Some believed it was real. Later analysis claimed it was forged. But the discovery reignited the question: how much Nazi treasure made it to South America? And where is it now? Back in Europe, the stories keep coming. In the Netherlands, a declassified map marked with a red X points to a spot near the town of Omeren, where a German soldier claimed to have buried loot from a bombed bank. Despite multiple attempts, nothing has been found. And in Germany, a coded musical score allegedly written by Hitler's secretary contains annotations believed to point to a stash of gold and diamonds buried in Mittenwald. Even the oceans aren't safe from speculation. The sunken German ship Wilhelm Gustloff, destroyed by Soviet torpedoes in 1945, is said by some to have carried crates of Nazi treasure, including parts of the missing Amber Room. Its wreck lies crushed on the sea floor, now a protected war grave. Another ship, the SS Kronprinz Wilhelm, also sank in the Baltic with its cargo still unknown. Divers have spotted chests beneath layers of silt. What's inside? No one knows. And then there's Lake Wuthersee, where 25 crates of gold allegedly disappeared under the watch of American officers. One soldier later described being part of a recovery operation where the gold was quietly loaded into trucks and never seen again. So did Hitler's gold simply vanish into thin air? Not quite. Some of it was recovered, some were returned, and some was quietly pocketed, lost, or buried forever. But the hunt continues, not just for treasure, but for truth. Because when it comes to Nazi gold, we're not just digging for bars and coins. We're unearthing a legacy of war, greed, loss, and the secrets people were willing to die to protect. If you want to explore more of World War II's darkest mysteries, be sure to check out the next video.